What happens when the people closest to you decide that your pain is their material? Two couples, one night. And by the time the sun comes up, nothing will be the same. Let's get into it. Meet Charlie. She's a social media executive, sharp, polished, the kind of woman who can manage a brand crisis at 11 p.m. and still look put together at breakfast. But right now, Charlie is standing at a bathroom mirror, putting on red lipstick. And the look on her face tells you everything you need to know. Because Charlie isn't getting ready for a fun night out. Charlie is getting ready to survive one. Behind her is Atticus. Her husband. He's a painter. Or at least, he used to be passionate about being a painter. These days he drifts around their apartment like a man trying to remember why he started. He tells her she looks beautiful. She says thank you. And in the way she says it, measured, correct, closed, you understand immediately that these two people have forgotten how to talk to each other. They drive to the party in silence. And it's not the comfortable silence of two people who've been together so long they don't need words anymore. It's the silence of two people who have too many words and none of them feel safe. 3 months ago, Charlie had a miscarriage. And in those 3 months, neither of them has found a way to be with each other in that loss. Atticus didn't know how to hold her through it. Charlie didn't know how to let him try. So they just kept going, like two people sharing a house that stopped being a home. The party is at Sebastian's place. Sebastian is one of those guys who just fills a room. Mid-40s, effortlessly magnetic, the kind of man who says everything with just enough edge that you can never quite tell if he's being profound or manipulative. Usually, it's both. He's an erotic photographer. His apartment looks like a gallery, enormous black and white photographs everywhere, bodies and light and shadow. Beautiful work, unsettling work. His partner is Naomi, a painter herself, dark, sensual, perceptive. She greets Charlie warmly. She greets Atticus with a look that lasts just a half second too long. And that half second? Remember it, because that half second is going to matter a lot later. Here's the first red flag of the evening. When Charlie and Atticus pull up to Sebastian's building, the parking lot is completely empty. Sebastian said this was a party. Not one other car. Charlie notices. Atticus tells her people probably parked on the street. Charlie doesn't push it, but she files it away. Charlie files everything away. She gets out of the car. She already suspects something is off. She just doesn't know yet how far off it's going to get. Inside, the evening starts out normal enough. Wine flows, conversation is easy. Art, the gallery, the creative world. Sebastian is a great host. He makes everyone feel seen, makes the room feel alive. But Sebastian has an agenda. And he's been building to it all night. He starts talking about his new series, his most important work yet, he says. He's been photographing desire for 20 years. Beautiful, technically perfect images. But he's realized something. He's been photographing the performance of desire, not desire itself. The theater of intimacy, not the real thing. And he genuinely believes, that the 4 people sitting in this room have already experienced something real together. Something honest. Something worth making art from. He takes them to the back room, a proper studio, lights, camera. And in the center of the room, coiled on a chair like something waiting, long lengths of deep red rope, shibari, Japanese rope bondage. That's the centerpiece of Sebastian's new exhibition. He wants the 4 of them, Charlie, Atticus, himself, and Naomi, to be the final shoot, the culminating piece. He wants to photograph them together, bound in red rope in the most honest, vulnerable state, and he calls it art. Charlie goes very quiet, and when Charlie goes very quiet, that's when you should be afraid. She looks at Atticus, and in the way Atticus fails to look back at her, the way he studies his wineglass with sudden fascination, she gets her answer. He knew. Atticus already knew about this. Sebastian told him. And Atticus said nothing. Charlie excuses herself. Naomi follows her to the kitchen, because that is what women do when the conversation in the other room has said too much. Charlie asks her directly, "Do you actually want this, Naomi? Not Sebastian, not the art, you." And Naomi's answer is devastating in how honest it is. She says, "I want Sebastian to be happy. I want his work to succeed, that's what I want. I want Sebastian to be happy. I want his work to succeed. That's what I want." Charlie looks at her and says, "That's not the same thing as wanting it yourself." And in that moment, something passes between these two women. Not camaraderie exactly, but recognition. Two people who have been organizing their entire lives around other people's needs, suddenly seeing themselves in each other. Meanwhile, in the living room, Atticus has agreed. He tells himself it's because Sebastian's work is important. But the truth the movie is very honest about, is that Atticus wants to be near Naomi. Because there's something between Atticus and Naomi that has been growing in the dark, quiet and unspoken for months, and tonight feels like a permission slip he didn't have to ask for. Here's where the evening crosses a line it cannot uncross. Sebastian refills everyone's wine, and as he does, smooth, casual, the movement of a man who has done this before, he drops something into each glass. A small tablet, dissolvable, gone in seconds. Charlie catches it. She asks him what that was. Sebastian waves it off. He calls it something harmless, something to help everyone relax, he says. Opens things up a little. He uses it himself. No big deal. The glasses are already in their hands. The wine is already at their lips. And Sebastian is already moving the conversation forward. Because that's the move. You do the thing, and then you talk right past it, fast and fluently, until the moment for objection has already passed. This, right here, is the most important moment in the entire film. Because what Sebastian just did isn't a quirk. It isn't artistic eccentricity. It's a violation. It's the removal of everyone else's ability to choose freely. And he dressed it up as hospitality. The drug works slowly at first, then all at once. Time starts to fracture. The edges of the room soften. The photographs on the walls seem to breathe. The red light of the studio bleeds through the whole apartment until everything is drenched in it. And for Charlie, the drug doesn't relax her. It breaks open every door she's been keeping shut. She's back in the hospital. 3 months ago, the fluorescent lights. The careful doctor. Atticus standing there, hands useless at his sides, not knowing what to do with a grief this size. She had asked him to get coffee. She needed 5 minutes to fall apart without being watched. And when he came back with the coffee, she had already put herself back together. And they never talked about it, either of them. They just got in the car and drove home through rain and went back to their lives, together and completely alone. Back in the present, Sebastian is beside her, and he still has the camera. Even now, even like this, he tells her she's the most interesting of the four. That even drugged, even falling apart, she's managing herself, holding everything like a closed fist. He says it like it's a compliment, like he's offering insight. But what he's actually doing is using her grief as content. She tells him to put the camera down. He doesn't. Meanwhile, Atticus and Naomi. The drug has done something to Atticus too, but not relaxed him, clarified him, cut through 3 months of comfortable avoidance and left him standing in front of something he's been refusing to look at. He asks Naomi directly, "Does Sebastian do this often?" "The drug?" She hesitates. Then quietly, he never really asks, and they both sit with what that means about Sebastian, about what Naomi has been tolerating, about why two people who barely have a real relationship between them have still found comfort in each other. Because they are both, in different ways, living with partners who have stopped seeing them. Atticus confronts Sebastian. He wants to know what was in the drinks. Sebastian is unbothered, calls it minor, calls it necessary, calls it part of the process. Atticus tells him that isn't consent, that saying yes to an evening doesn't mean saying yes to being chemically altered without your knowledge. And Sebastian, smooth, confident Sebastian, drops the mask. He says, "Don't lecture me about consent, Atticus. I know about you and Naomi, the calls, the texts. Don't make me the villain here when you've been playing both sides for months." Silence. Atticus doesn't deny it, because it's true. For months, while Charlie was sealed inside her grief and he didn't know how to reach her, Atticus was talking to Naomi. Long calls, late-night messages, an emotional intimacy that grew in the space Charlie had vacated. Not physical, but real, and a betrayal regardless. He's been carrying it the way people carry things they can't put down and can't admit they're holding. And Charlie heard every word. She's been standing in the hall, and she has heard everything. All four of them end up in the living room. The party, if it was ever a party, is completely over. What's left is just the truth, which nobody actually wanted to get to this way. Charlie looks at Atticus, and when she speaks, her voice is completely flat. The flatness of someone who has used up all their energy on composure. How long? Not a question, a demand. Atticus tries to explain. It wasn't physical. It was just talking. It was just emotional, Charlie says. Right, because that's so much better. That's the part of you I would have wanted you to give someone else. Not your body, your presence, your attention, your interest. She turns to Naomi. Did you know? Naomi says, yes. And Charlie just nods, filing it away, managing, always managing. And then Sebastian starts talking about truth, about how everyone in this room has been lying to themselves and to each other, about how he simply created the conditions for honesty, about how this is what art is supposed to do. Charlie cuts through all of it. She says, you drugged us. Sebastian says, a small amount of. She says, without our knowledge, without our consent. You manipulate people and call it a creative process. And then she says something that lands like a verdict. There's no party. There are no other guests. We're not the art, Sebastian. We're the experiment. Sebastian says the gallery show is real, and maybe it is. But Charlie is right about everything else. Charlie follows Sebastian into the studio. She is not done. He picks up the camera, because he always picks up the camera, because the camera is his armor and his weapon and his identity all at once. He asks her, when did it become a burden? Loving Atticus? And here is where the film does something extraordinary, because Charlie answers, not for Sebastian's art. In spite of it, after we lost the baby, he didn't know how to be with me, and I didn't know how to let him, and we just kept not knowing. Together, separately. We became very good at being in the same room without being there at all. The camera is still running, but Sebastian, for the first time all evening, lowers it. Even he isn't untouched by that. While Charlie and Sebastian are in the studio, Atticus and Naomi have their own reckoning. Atticus apologizes for using what was between them as a substitute for the things he wasn't doing at home. Naomi is honest back. She says he wasn't the only one using, that Sebastian had been withdrawing into his work for years, that she'd been an object in his photographs for so long she forgot she was supposed to be a subject in her own life. She says, you listened to me. You asked questions. You remembered what I told you. That's not nothing. Atticus says, but it's not love either. And Naomi says, no, but we both knew that. Two people looking clearly at something that was never what either of them pretended it was. Not with anger, just honesty. The kind the rest of the evening has been trying to force and failing to get. And then, from behind the studio door, a crash. Naomi has gone back in there. And something that has been building inside her for 10 years has finally found its exit. When Charlie and Atticus reach the doorway, Sebastian is on the floor. Naomi is standing over him. And his camera, his beloved camera, the instrument of his entire identity, is in pieces at her feet. He's not badly hurt, but he is shaken, possibly for the first time in his adult life. Naomi looks at him. Her voice is low, precise, devastating. 10 years. I have been a subject in your art and a prop in your experiments for 10 years. And every time I raised an objection, you told me it was about the work. It was about truth. It was about creating something that mattered. Tonight, you drugged people I care about. You used all of us, and you are calling that art. Sebastian starts to say her name. She walks past him. She steps over the broken camera. She walks out of his frame, for the first time, entirely on her own terms. Remember the very first image of this movie? Charlie and Atticus at a sink, water running, washing something from their hands? Here's what it was. The broken camera left a cut on Sebastian's hand, and in the strange, exhausted aftermath of the night, Charlie instinctively helped. The four of them in a bathroom together, dealing with a wound, doing the smallest, most ordinary human thing. The film is telling you something with that image. The horror of the night wasn't spectacular. It was intimate. It was the kind of damage that looks like nothing from the outside and changes everything on the inside. Charlie and Atticus sit on opposite ends of the couch. And then, slowly, she slides closer to him, not touching, just closer. She says, I'm not okay. He says, I know. She says, I need you to actually know it, not manage it, not move us past it, know it. He says, I've known. I just didn't know what to do with knowing. She tells him he should have told her about Naomi. He doesn't argue. He just says yes. And then she says, I don't know what happens now. And he says, neither do I. She takes his hand. And that's it. Not forgiveness. Forgiveness is months away, maybe more. But contact. The first real point of contact in 3 months. Two people who have been sleeping beside each other like strangers, finally turning to face each other. They walk out into the early morning. The city is grey, quiet, still waking up. The parking lot is empty. It was always going to be empty. He asks if she wants him to drive. She says yes. She gets in the passenger seat. And before he starts the engine, he asks her, "What do you want to do?" She says, "I want to go home. And I want to talk." Actually talk. Not manage the conversation. Not protect each other from the hard parts. I want it to be difficult. And I want us to stay in the room. He starts the engine. They pull out into the grey morning. The city receives them. Inside, Naomi stands at the window, watching their car disappear. Sebastian comes to stand behind her. He asks, "Are you leaving me?" She doesn't answer right away. She watches the street. Then she turns to look at him. Really look at him, clearly, without the softening of habit and history. She says, "I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I know what I'm not doing anymore." She walks to the bedroom. The door clicks shut, not slammed, closed, which is somehow so much worse. Sebastian is alone. His photographs look down at him from every wall. A lifetime of work. Beautiful, technically perfect, built on a foundation of people who trusted him. He picks up the broken camera, turns it over, sets it down, and the movie ends there without resolution, without a verdict on whether any of these 4 people are going to be okay. Because that's the most honest thing it can do. If you want a movie that makes you think about consent, about grief, about what we owe the people we love, BIGHT is worth your time. If you enjoyed this recap, hit like and subscribe. Drop in the comments, who did you think was most at fault in this story? Sebastian for what he did, Atticus for the secret? Or was it all just 4 people who stopped telling each other the truth? I'll see you in the next one.